Hey guys, BJ, Very Basic Bible, doing a Bible quick read from the split of the kingdom, where the kingdom of Israel split into Judah and Israel. Then later, God exiles Israel, and only Judah is left. We're reading basically through the history of the northern kingdom of Israel. Okay. There will be political intrigues. There will be economic crashes. There'll be crazy stories of prophets and prophecies, some long stuff, some short and fast stuff. We'll see what happens. Okay, guys. And of course, there's always confusing names and strange events that happen. Here we go. First Kings chapter 16, verse 8. In the 26th year of Judah's king Asa, Elah, son of Baasha, became king over Israel, and he reigned in Tirzah 2 years. His servant Zimri, commander of half his chariots, conspired against him while Elah was in Tirzah getting drunk in the house of Arza, who was in charge of the household at Tirzah. In the 27th year of Judah's king Asa, Zimri went in and struck Elah down, killing him. Then Zimri became king in his place. Man, like you got, remember, Elah's dad, Baasha, killed, who was it? Let's see, up here. Baasha's dad was, I'm sorry, guys, it's supposed to be a quick read, right? Baasha, son of Ahijah. Okay, but not Ahijah. Jeroboam's anger. Baasha killed Nadab. So Jeroboam's son Nadab was killed by Baasha. Baasha's son Elah is killed by the commander Zimri. Zimri went in and struck Elah down, killing him. Then Zimri became king in his place. Man, you wonder, assassinations and stuff. That's so. When he became king, as soon as Zimri was seated on the throne, Zimri struck down the entire house of Baasha. He did not leave a single male, including his kinsmen and his friends. So Zimri destroyed the entire house of Baasha according to the word of the Lord he had spoken against Baasha through the prophet Jehu. Prophet Jehu be speaking against him. This happened because of all the sins of Baasha and those of his son Elah, which they committed and caused Israel to commit, angering the Lord God of Israel with their worthless idols. The rest of the events of Elah's reign, along with all his accomplishments, are written in the historical records of Israel's kings. I wonder how long Zimri lasts. In the 27th year of Judah's king Asa, so Judah's been, King Asa, been king for 27 years. So far, none of these kings have gotten out of single digits. Zimri became king for 7 days in Tirzah. Now the troops were encamped against Gibbethon of the Philistines. When these troops heard that Zimri had not only conspired, but also had struck down the king, then all Israel made Omri, the army commander, king over Israel that very day in the camp. What in the world? Omri, along with all Israel, marched up from Gibbethon and besieged Tirzah, the city where the kings of Israel stay in. They left, man. When Zimri saw the city was captured, he entered the citadel of the royal palace and burned it down over himself. He died because of the sin he committed by doing what was evil in the Lord's sight and by walking the ways of Jeroboam and the sin he caused Israel to commit. Man, the rest of the events of Zimri's reign, along with the conspiracy that he instigated, are written in the historical record of Israel's kings. How long is Omri going to stay king? Let's see. At that time, the people of Israel were divided. Half the people followed Tibni, son of Ginneth. Who in the world is that? To make him king. And half followed Omri. However, the people who followed Omri proved stronger than those who followed Tibni, son of Ginneth. So Tibni died and Omri became king. I wonder how Tibni died. Who knows? In the 31st year of Judah's king Asa, Omri became king over Israel, and he reigned 12 years. Oh, good. We're out of single digits. One guy reigned 2 years, one guy reigns 3 years and gets killed, the other guy reigns 7 days and gets killed. Then Tibni, he doesn't even last. Man, 12 years. Omri, okay. Omri reigned 6 years in Tirzah. Then he bought the hill of Samaria from Shemer for 150 pounds of silver, and he built up the hill. He named the city he built Samaria based on the name Shemer, the owner of the hill. You'd think they'd name the city Shemer. I don't know. Surprise, surprise. Omri did what was evil in the Lord's sight. He did more evil than all who were before him. He walked in all the ways of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, in every respect, and continued in his sins that he caused Israel to commit, angering the Lord of God of Israel with their worthless idols, yada, yada, etc., etc. The rest of the events of Omri's reign, along with his accomplishments and the might he exercised, are written in the historical record of Israel's kings. Omri rested with his ancestors and was buried in Samaria. His son Ahab became king in his place. Ahab, son of Omri, became king over Israel in the 38th year of Judah's king Asa. Ahab, son of Omri, reigned over Israel in Samaria 22 years. But Ahab, son of Omri, did what was evil in the Lord's sight, more than all who were before him. Then, as if following the sin of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, were not enough. Now, almost all the kings, more than all who were before him. Evil in the Lord's sight, more than all who. It's like you can't keep doing more than all were before him, more evil than were before him, more and more and more. I mean, eventually you start to think it's rhetoric, it's hyperbole. And a lot of times it probably is. It's probably just trying to get across the point. He was just that bad. But then, as if following the sin of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, were not enough, he married Jezebel, the daughter of Ethbaal, king of the Sidonians, and then proceeded to serve Baal and bow and worship to him. He set up an altar for Baal in the temple of Baal that he had built in Samaria. He built a temple of Baal in Samaria. Ahab also made an Asherah pole. Ahab did more to anger the Lord God of Israel than all the kings of Israel who were before him. Remember, the queen mother was deposed by Asa for building an Asherah pole in Judah, in Jerusalem. During his reign, Hiel the Bethelite built Jericho. At the cost of Abiram, his firstborn, he laid its foundation. And at the cost of his Segub, his youngest, he finished its gates. According to the word of the Lord, he had spoken to Joshua, son of Nun. God gave a word through Joshua saying, nobody's going to build Jericho except for the expense of your kids. Well, this dude, Hiel the Bethelite, either A, didn't know that prophecy from Joshua, or B, he was like, I don't care. I'm going to rebuild Jericho anyway. I guess Abiram, his firstborn, died. And Segub, his youngest, which would probably be his secondborn, also died. I guess they died when he built Jericho. It's crazy. Okay, guys, I just noticed I forgot to set my timer on my phone. Chapter 17, it's a chapter break. Look at that. Elijah announces famine. Now Elijah the Tishbite comes out of nowhere. There he is, Elijah. That's a good time to stop. Sometimes we stop right in the middle of a story. Then sometimes we stop at a chapter break and at the between stories. All right. So this might be longer than other 10 minutes. This might be shorter. I'm not sure. But remember, if you got any questions, please scroll down. Look at the verse by verse Bible teachings. Copy the link, paste it in your browser. Look up 1 Kings chapter 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. See the mistakes I might have made. Get teaching in more detail. Those guys are smart and they know what they're talking about. We'll see you guys on the next Very Basic Bible.